Hello friends, how are you all doing? We have come a very long way from the basic concept of urbanization to almost the final session of this particular course on urban sociology and urban development. In our previous session, we tried to understand about the livelihoods mission policy with regard to urban areas. We also tried to understand about Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. In this last session of this course, let us try to get a glimpse about the urbanization policy in India. I am sure you are convinced with the help of all the sessions so far that India is urbanizing at a massive pace, and that is why there is need for us to have a very concrete urbanization policy. As we know friends that urbanization is a natural outgrowth of socio-economic development in general and industrialization in particular. However, while there are specific and detailed statements of policy for industrial development, agricultural development, population growth and so on, there was no specific clear-cut national urbanization policy statement. It was at the suggestion of M.S. Thakur, a distinguished scientist and a member of Planning Commission in the early 1970s, that a thought towards a national policy on urbanization in India was initiated. He said, during the next few plan periods, urban growth policy should be emphasized and should have these broad objectives. What are they? Firstly, directing growth into a number of selected centers or growth points located in all parts of the country. Secondly, he emphasized on integrating urban growth with development of the surrounding rural areas so that the two are bound together in relation of mutual interdependence, and each growth point becomes in time the nucleus of a rapidly developing growth region. This was to be done, he felt, Mr. Thakur felt, by developing these types of growth points. He emphasized on satellite towns of large metropolitan cities, new growth centers resulting from the planned development, certain other regions where because of a combination of factors dispersed industrial development is already taking place, and he also spoke about rural service center. The government was asked to formulate a meaningful urbanization policy statement to accomplish various objectives, like to evolve a spatial structure of human settlements which can integrate the urban and rural settlements on one hand and is conducive to the development of local, regional and national economy and polity on the other. The second objective was to induce the redistribution of India's population in various types and sizes of human settlement so that the size of population is consistent with the size of resources available. Thirdly, to induce the location of new economic and social activities in areas and central places which are lagging in development or which have the resources to support such activities or which can generate new opportunities for the poor. Another objective was to control unplanned growth of large cities by dispersing economic and social activities to small and medium-sized towns and cities. Another critical objective was to provide minimum civic facilities to poorer sections of the society in urban as well as rural settlements, and also to have full control over the basic resources like land with a view to control the physical growth of cities and to allocate resources to those who need them most. So my dear friends, if we try to analyze these particular objectives, one point which stands out clearly is what? That if urban has to develop, rural also has to develop. And this is what I have been emphasizing in almost all my sessions, especially in my earlier sessions, that rural urban dichotomy, whether conceptually it exists or not, that is indeed debatable, but rural development is dependent on urban development and urban on the rural. When we talk about the various 5-year plans, they also have focused in different ways on urban development and urban policies. For example, during the first 2 5-year plan periods, various institutions and organizations were created and set up. Like government set up the Town and Country Planning Organization, the National Building Organization and Delhi Development Authority during this period. Efforts were also made to prepare Delhi Master Plan, which served as a model for city planning in other states also. During this period, states were advised for the enactment of town and country planning legislation to enable the drawing up of master plans for the closer regulation of urban land. The third 5-year plan, which you all know was between 1961 to 1966, was a turning point in India's history of urban development and planning. It recognized the importance of cities and towns in balanced regional development and advised that urban planning should adopt a regional approach. It emphasized the need for urban land regulation, checking of urban land prices and also preparation of master plan for the big cities. By now you all are aware what a master plan is, which we have discussed in some of our sessions. It made clear that the preparation of master plan is the responsibility of state and local governments. It also underscored the need that as far as possible, new industries should be established away from large and congested cities, and the municipal administration needs to be strengthened to a great extent. During this period, majority of the states introduced town planning legislation modelled on the pattern of British town planning designs and practices. In fact, third plan can be regarded as a critical one for urban policy making in the country as well. When we talk about the fourth 5-year plan between 1969 to 1974, it continued to emphasize the regional and urban development initiatives like in third plan, and development plans for 72 urban centers were undertaken. Regional studies in respect of metropolitan regions around Delhi, Greater Bombay and Calcutta were also initiated. The development of new state capitals like Chandigarh, Gandhinagar, Bhopal and Bhubaneswar were speeded up or accelerated through special grants by the central government. It also stressed on improving urban legislations and advised the state governments to review statutes which hindered urban development. And in this regard, the Urban Land Ceiling and Regulation Act 1976 was passed during the 5th 5-year plan period. It also advised the state governments to create metropolitan planning regions to take care of the growing areas outside administrative city limits. In a very significant development, during this plan period, the government of Maharashtra passed the Mumbai Metropolitan Development Act in 1974 and Mumbai Metropolitan Region Development Authority MMRDA. It was also established in accordance on 26 January 1975. Also during this period, Housing and Urban Development Corporation, popularly known as HUDCO, was also established to fund projects of the urban local bodies, housing boards and other organizations. One of the special features of the fourth plan was that metropolitan cities and cities of national importance got special financial commitment, which continued even in fifth five-year plan between 1974 to 1979. It made allocation for Kolkata, Mumbai and Chennai, especially under Integrated Urban Development Program, and some more cities of national importance. There was an apparent favor to big cities until fifth plan, although the rhetoric of urban and industrial decentralization was repeated plan after the plan. The sixth five-year plan between 1978 to 83 stressed the need to develop small and medium sized towns less than 1 lakh population. In this regard, a scheme of integrated development of small and medium towns IDSMT was also launched in 1979 by the central government. The IDSMT scheme was allocated rupees 96 crore, a paltry amount that aimed to benefit about 200 small and medium towns. There were some important institutional developments also during the seventh plan period, which shaped the urban development policy and planning in India. The National Commission on Urbanization submitted its report in August 1988, and a bill known as 65th Constitution Amendment was introduced in Lok Sabha in 1989, incorporating the suggestions of the Commission. The bill was the first attempt to grant constitutional status to urban local bodies with an aim to create a three-tier federal structure with center at the top, states at the intermediate level and local bodies at the bottom. The bill, however, failed to be passed in Rajya Sabha as it was understood to be an interference in the autonomy of the states. The bill was again introduced after some revision as 74th Constitution Amendment Bill 1992, which was passed by the both houses of Parliament, and it came into force in March 1993. So, I am very sure you can recall this amendment with regard to imparting a constitutional status to urban local bodies. Then what happened? During 8th plan, the mega city scheme was introduced in 1993 to 94, covering 5 mega cities of Mumbai, Calcutta, Chennai, Bangalore and Hyderabad. Also, the integrated development of small and medium town scheme was revamped to dovetail its activities of infrastructure development programs for boosting employment generation, for diverting migration from big cities to the small and medium towns. In this regard, the role of the small and medium towns was envisaged as developing growth centers for the betterment of rural hinterland. Similar to the master plan of big cities, it was suggested that regional plan could serve for small and medium towns. It was noted that scarcity of funds is a limiting factor and sources of funding should be explored beyond the budgetary and institutional provisions. Therefore, in this regard, when we talk about the 9th five-year plan between 1997 to 2002 sought that state urbanization strategy should be prepared for establishing synergy among various urban development programs. Although most of the programs undertaken in the 8th plan continued even in 9th plan, the emphasis was placed more on decentralization and financial autonomy of the urban local bodies with an aim to promote competitiveness and efficiency through the market based interventions. Earlier, the programs like Nehru Rozgar Yojana as well as Urban Basic Services for the Poor and Prime Minister's Integrated Urban Poverty Eradication Program PMI UPEP were merged to form a new program called Swarna Jayanti Shahari Rozgar Yojana with effect from 1st December 1997. We have discussed about this in our earlier sessions. This is a kind of a revision. This program had two sub-schemes. What were they? Urban Self-Employment Program and second was Urban Wage Employment Program. The self-employment and wage employment components of the existing Nehru Rozgar Yojana and PMI UPEP were reorganized under this single program. Further, the shelter upgradation components of both NRY and PMI UPEP were merged and a new program named National Slum Development Program started in 1997. So, all these exercises have been taking place throughout the 5-year plans. Then when we talk about 10th 5-year plan between 2002 and 2007, recognize the fact that urbanization played a key role in accelerating economic growth in 1980s and 1990s as a result of economic liberalization. It also noted that programs such as Mega City Project for 5 selected cities, the Integrated Development of Small and Medium Towns IDSMT and the Accelerated Urban Water Supply Program AUWSP have shown limited success. It also noted that the coverage and the amount of central assistance in the past have been uneven and inadequate both because of procedural issues as well as limited budgetary allocations. The existing schemes for assistance for infrastructure such as IDSMT and the Mega City Project leave a significant number of cities between them without the central support. The 10th plan, my dear friends, also noted that the performance of NSDP has not been satisfactory mainly because of the delays at the state level in releasing the funds to the implementing agencies. Therefore, a program called Valmiki Ambedkar Awas Yojana VAMBE was also initiated in 2001-2002 for provision of shelter and upgrading the existing shelter of the people below poverty line. A subsidy in the range of rupees 20 to 30,000 was also provided per unit depending upon the size of the city. It also accepted the fact that parastatal agencies and bodies such as development authorities need to play a supportive role and even partnership with urban local bodies rather than taking over functions which properly belong to the urban local bodies. Overall, the 10th plan stressed that without strengthening the democratic structure and institutional building of the urban local bodies, the goal of urban development could not be achieved, and this is a very, very important factor. The 11th 5-year plan between 2007 to 2012 introduced some innovative changes in the urban policy and programs. The key urban development strategies including strengthening urban local bodies through capacity building and better financial management. It also emphasized on increasing the efficiency and productivity of cities by deregulation and development of land. It was emphasized to dismantle public sector monopoly over urban infrastructure and creating conducive atmosphere for the private sector to invest. Need was also felt to establish autonomous regulatory framework to oversee the functioning of the public and private sector. Further, reducing incidence of poverty and using technology and innovation in a big way. When we come to the 12th 5-year plan, my dear friends, between 2012 to 2017, it proposed to consolidate the Jawaharlal mission and envisaged its wider role in urban reforms. We have already discussed about this mission in previous sessions, and the Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission during 12th plan has these components. This is again a kind of a quick revision. Urban infrastructure and governance. It also included Rajiv Awas Yojana. It also focused on slum rehabilitation in cities not covered under Rajiv Awas Yojana. As we are aware that on 1st January 2015, Niti Aayog replaced the erstwhile Planning Commission of India. Niti Aayog's 3-year action agenda between 2017 to 2020 published in 2017 stated that poor management of cities leads to scarcity of residential and commercial spaces, slums, absence of greenery, stress on infrastructure, air pollution, traffic congestion, solid waste issues, and so on. And so, India needs to introduce more fundamental changes to turn cities into 21st century spaces. Further, the spatial planning should be able to simultaneously address developmental needs of the metropolitan, municipal and ward level areas. The agenda document, among other things, concluded that Indian cities need to overhaul their municipal staffing and introduce appropriate skills to achieve administrative efficiency. In its Strategy for New India at 75, Niti Aayog referred to specific constraints faced in multiple sectors. These included inadequate capacity in urban local bodies to formulate and design mass housing projects and absence of a modern spatial planning framework. Heavy understaffing of the municipalities and significant gaps in the skills required for urban management were also observed. This document identified 41 different areas that require either a sharper focus on implementing the flagship schemes already in place or a new design and initiative to achieve India's true potential. These included multiple aspects in the context of urban planning capacity, such as the need for synchronous and modern national framework for spatial planning of cities. It also focused on guaranteed land titling to foster a transparent land market and not a market of land mafias, capacity building for municipal jobs and strengthening institutions, adoption of GIS based maps, a dedicated metropolitan urban transport authority to address the challenges of traffic congestion, setting up of dedicated cells for integrated planning, coordination and delivery of transport services in smaller cities, integrating land use and transport planning for enhancing economic activity, reducing commuting time and improving the environmental quality. Moreover, building on the work done in cities on geographic information systems, that is our GIS, and applying these for geolocating and mapping public assets in the city such as parks, playgrounds, public toilets, bus stops, street lights, water and sewerage lines, storm water drains, power lines, etc. It was also important to link the geolocated assets in the cities to grievance redressal, participatory budgeting, transparent works management, and also the contractor payments. Digitization of textual as well as spatial records at the state level was also made important component. The evolution of urbanization related policies in the national planning framework indicates that the importance on urban development, housing and related infrastructure kept growing with time. However, the approach towards city master planning has largely been on the physical land use planning aspect, and the need for integrating spatial with economic planning even still persists. Also, the gaps in urban planning capacity at the local level have been only somewhat filled, but still pose a challenge. A draft of key ideas termed as Urban Sutras for National Urban Policy Framework 2018 states that cities should be built around the clusters of human capital instead of treating them like mere agglomerations of land use, whether residential, commercial and industrial, as being done currently under master plans of various cities. My dear friends, you must be wondering that you have heard about economic capital, social capital. What is this human capital? Human capital is nothing but a concept where you are understanding a human as a productive activity who can be quite capable of contributing in economic productivity provided his environs, both physical and social environs, are taken care. This policy comes exactly 3 decades after the National Commission on Urbanization, headed by the planner Charles Correa, came up with a roadmap on tackling growth in small and mid-sized cities. Since then, there has been no urbanization policy at the national level. So, the draft principles on which the urbanization policy will be based further state that cities should plan for density as per location rather than the type of the land use. Cities should also thrive on multimodal public transportation and leverage their human capital to become financially self-reliant, they said. Moreover, the National Urban Policy Framework NUPF outlines an integrated and coherent approach towards the future of urban planning in India. The NUPF is structured along 2 significant lines. Firstly, at NUPF's core lies 10 sutras or philosophical principles. Secondly, the 10 sutras are applied to 10 functional areas of urban space and management. Within each functional area, the status quo and its challenges are also analyzed, key priorities are formulated, and specific possible action points are also suggested. The NUPF stands on 10 sutras. What are they? Let us try to understand. Firstly, that cities are clusters of human capital. So, please underline human capital, a very critical component of the policy. Secondly, cities require a sense of place. Thirdly, not static master plans but evolving ecosystems which adapts to the new changes. Fourthly, build for the density as the population density increases. The 5th sutra talks about public spaces that encourage social interactions. Another sutra focuses on multimodal public transport backbone. Then there is lot of focus on environmental sustainability. Without environmental sustainability, urban spaces cannot survive. Financially self-reliant is a critical principle, and cities require clear unified leadership. And the 10th sutra is cities as engines of regional growth. This NUPF recognizes the fact that urban development is a state subject. Hence, the states need to develop their respective state-urban policies, including implementation plans based on this particular framework. It is not an attempt to provide a detailed top-down guidebook to cities. The center will support the development and implementation of the state urban policies based on this framework directly and shifts away from top-down central schemes. It presents a new way of thinking about Indian cities, and job creation emerges as a key issue in planning for India's urbanization. The vision which underpins this particular framework is to see cities as complex and changing agglomerations of people who are constantly interacting with each other, with socio-economic institutions and with the built environment. The soft and the hard infrastructure of the city provides the backdrop for such interaction and is not ends in themselves. So, the exact optimization of a specific city therefore depends crucially on local context and cannot be done through the blind application of some Cartesian ideal which is set up elsewhere. This is why the new approach emphasizes preservation of heritage, revival or even invention of the local architectural styles, the importance of regional linkages and environmental sustainability. This fits with the fact that the plurality is the essence of Indianness. Friends, a sound urbanization policy should aim at a spatially and structurally balanced urban system having symbolic relation with rural settlements. There should be a cohesive rural-urban relation within the frame of rural-urban continuum and reduced rural-urban dichotomy in the human settlement system. In this particular session, my dear friends, we have tried to touch upon, I would say in glimpses, an exhaustive presentation may not be possible, but we have tried to touch the glimpses and the fragmented developments with regard to urbanization policy. But I am sure by this time, when we are in the last session of our program, in the last session of our course, you are convinced that India is urbanizing, and going by whatever statistics we have, whether national level statistics or global level statistics, even what our United Nations says, there is no denial that urbanization is accelerating, and that is why it will be in the best interest of our country if we have a strong, evolving national urbanization policy, keeping in view the federal structure of our country. And let there be no conflict between center, state and local governments in this regard. Let there be a clear-cut understanding and have a very transparent ecosystem evolving urbanization policy. And in this regard, if you have anything which you think you should share with me, or any ideas if you have, or any queries if you have with regard to any of the sessions, please feel free to write to me at pandevini@gmail.com. It has been a wonderful experience to discuss all these sessions with you, and I hope that this particular session also adds lot of value to your understanding on urban sociology and urban development. Thank you all friends very much. Take care. Bye bye.